You're listening to the Good Question Podcast with Richard Jacobs. Our goal is to make each of our guests exclaim, that's a good question. I don't know the answer. Because when that happens, it means you, the listener, may be inspired to learn more beyond the interview and to ask great questions yourself that lead to new insights. In this podcast, we cover historical and current anthropology, comparative religion, and history. Welcome, and let's get started.
Hello, this is Richard Jacobs with the Good Question Podcast. My guest today is Selena Sing. She's the president of Paralegal Activity, LLC. It brings to mind like paranormal activity, but of course that's not them. But I thought it was a funny play on words when I saw it. Selena originally started her career at the Public Defender's Office in Orange County, Florida. She got a bachelor's in legal studies from University of Central Florida. So she's been working in various areas of civil litigation and business, and she launched Paralegal Activity in 2020 to fill the gap for virtual paralegal service. So welcome, Selena. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, Richard. I really appreciate you having me.
Yeah. So tell me, what does it mean, virtual paralegal services? What do you guys do?
So during the pandemic, as most people know, there was almost a global shift towards remote work, and attorneys found themselves in a position where they needed paralegal support outside of the office that was just as dependable as having someone sitting in their office at a desk. And so we stepped in to sort of fill that need and provide full service paralegal support to attorneys that sort of needed that virtual shift during the pandemic. And then, with certain attorneys, that virtual model really worked out and it became a more time and cost efficient method for them. And, 5 years later, we're still providing that level of virtual support for attorneys. And as we went along, we realized that there was a need amongst pro se litigants for the same type of support where they could have someone virtually help them with the preparation and filing of legal form.
Okay. So do you work for multiple law firms, or do you have staff that are paralegals that will work for multiple law firms?
Yes, we do. We have several law firms that work with our company. It's a great group, a great network in various areas of law, all civil at the moment, but we do. We have multiple attorneys that work with us.
Okay. So is each paralegal with one attorney like full time, or do they work for multiple ones, or like how do you guys provide the services?
So we try to be as efficient as possible, and that's really the key with our business model. And when we have assignments that come in from whether they're our attorneys or our pro se litigants, we try to send that work over to a paralegal that has the most experience and can complete those tasks the most accurately and efficiently. That way, we're spending the least amount of time, but we can ensure that the client gets a high quality product.
Okay. So what kind of activities will your paralegals do? Are they doing like intakes and document preparation, like document prep? Are they doing like everything a paralegal would do plus a secretary, or is it very specialized function?
We'll do anything our clients need support with. So we do everything from client management to drafting to case analytics and strategy. So we're not just pushing paper. We're thinking about how to achieve goals on behalf of the client and the firm. But I will tell you, Richard, that our most in-demand service is our firm management. A lot of times our attorney clients come to us and say, the firm isn't really at the vision that I had for it. And attorneys are not really used to getting direct and straightforward feedback on what's wrong or what's going wrong with their firm. So we take a deep dive into the mechanic of being a firm so that the attorneys can free their hands and do the lawyering. And we put all those pieces together, from the human resources to practice management software, it's client relations, and the way that all those pieces of the firms work together. And our firm consulting service has been the most successful and highly demanded service of all of the services that we offer. But we do offer a full array of paralegal and legal assistance services if that's what our clients request.
Okay. So again, the top services, will attorneys want you for intakes or just more for drafting? Like, how does it break down amongst the different activities that you do?
Well, like I said, our most in-demand service is our firm consulting service, but I would say secondarily, our drafting service is pretty demanding also. So here we'll have whether it's a pro se client that needs forms drafted or attorneys that need any variety of legal documents drafted, from motions to notices to proposed orders, anything that could or would be filed or submitted to the court, or even demand letters that could be sent to opposing counsel or other parties that may be leading up to a civil case. We draft all of that.
Okay. You said your the most in-demand service is what, office management. So what's entailed in there? What do you
So firm consulting takes a really hard look at the mechanics of the firm. What is the vision that the shareholders have for their firm, and how is that coming to fruition? So we take a good look at the things that may not be performing as well as the shareholders would like them to perform, but we also study the things that are working well and figure out how to make all of the processes work optimally for that particular firm. So we're looking at the different pieces. Who is working with the firm, the human resources? What are those personalities like? What are their experiences like? And how do they work together cohesively in the firm setting? We also look at things like document management, which is a huge indicator of the health of the firm, how they manage documents coming in and out, as well as the practice management software that they're using to manage workflow and keep track of client information and things of that nature. We're also looking at things like marketing, what type of turnover the firm is getting from leads. So who is the first person that potential clients are making contact with, and how are those leads being converted to actual retainers and client retention? So we take a global look, we do a study on the entire firm, and we report back to the managing partners on what we see and with propositions on how to improve processes.
What are some of the processes in a law firm that, like, I don't know, are they doing them in an old school way or a disorganized way? Like, what kind of processes do you help with most often?
So notoriously, the law and technology have not had the most seamless marriage over the years. And yes, we do often have difficulty getting lawyers, especially seasoned attorneys, to sort of come on board with not only using practice management software at their firm, but I would say one of the most repetitive issues that we find is that they will bring practice management software into the firm with the promises and the potential that that practice management software brings with them, but they are limited by their willingness to optimize the use of that practice management software. And what I mean by that is training and implementation. So oftentimes we have the most state-of-the-art, comprehensive, powerful practice management software that a firm could have that meets the firm's needs and shortfalls, but it's only as good as the user will allow it to be. So we try to bring our attorneys back into the training aspect of the practice management so that they know all of the ways that it can be used, and then getting them to actually use it. How can we structure that attorney's life where this practice management software is less of a chore and more of the tool that it's intended to be?
Okay. The results of your work, is it time saved by the law firm, or is it just they're able to handle a higher amount of cases? Like what are the benefits that you see, and what are the benefits that they tell you of your work for them?
All of the above. So we're looking to improve efficiency globally across the firm. And that means freeing up the attorney's hands from everyday, mundane, day-to-day tasks or things, having to unravel things that are not working as well at the firm, to the business of acquiring clients, retaining clients, and focusing to the extent needed on the caseload that they have as far as strategy and delegating work. We want our shareholders and our partners to be focused on acquiring work, on acquiring business. We want the associates to be able to perform whatever work is necessary on the case, but in kind of a managerial liaison sort of role. And then we want supporting staff, such as paralegals and assistants, to really be doing the heavy lifting with the guidance of the associates and the partners. And we find that when the structure of the work is separated like that, the firm can not only work efficiently, but it can grow.
And what does grow mean for the attorneys? Like, they just want to get more and more clients, or do they want to work less, or are they like, what what is growth for them?
Exactly. It's a combination of the two. It is the work-life balance where they can be assured that the present processes of the firm are being handled efficiently, adequately, and comprehensively. But it's also the ability to free their hands from the lawyering and go out and acquire more work, whether that means, bringing in more clients in their particular field or expanding to ancillary fields. So we have family law attorneys who are able to free their hands and develop a probate practice within their firm, or personal injury attorneys who are able to develop an insurance practice and kind of widen their base.
Oh, widen their base, meaning widen their practice area, or what do you?
Yes, including they can choose to either bring in more clients in their particular practice area or widen their practice to include different fields.
Oh, okay. What is the preference usually? Just to get more clients, or are attorneys okay to jump to different fields? I would think that they'd be resistant to that.
Well, no, and I'll tell you why. I think the attorneys who are forward enough with their thinking to understand efficiency, technology, and development at their firm also understand that longevity in business is akin to longevity in the wild. Adaptations is survival. And sometimes if you're very narrow in your focus, which may make you very good in that particular field, changes in the market have direct impacts on the ebb and flow of the profitability of that particular field. So I do find that now attorneys have shifted away from what may have been their primary focus for the past 20 or 30 years into various fields of law because of the shift in the market.
Oh, yeah. What shifts are you seeing the past couple of years? What's really changing?
Notably, there has been a decline in certain areas. So, for example, some of my attorneys that have had explosive and fruitful careers in bankruptcy, particularly, have seen a pretty significant decline in bankruptcy work, I would say over the past 10 years. There was quite an explosion with bankruptcy work. I'm sure, a lot of attorneys and people can remember the implosion of the housing market in the early 2000s. With that came, a flood of bankruptcy work. But around 2015 to 2018, that really trailed off. And interestingly enough, the bankruptcy court publishes periodically a report on the metrics, who's filing bankruptcy and how many people in certain districts are filing that. And if you study those metrics, you'll see that there just was an overall decline after that housing bubble burst sort of leveled out, where the bankruptcy market just lulled and it went into a pretty low activity. Now, that means that all the attorneys who had been inundated with bankruptcy work the 15 years prior to that they had a necessity to sort of branch out into other areas of law, a lot of them in other fields of civil litigation that they may have touched on during the course of their bankruptcy work. But they needed to adapt to that in order to be able to facilitate continuing to bring work into the firm and the survival of the firm.
Okay. Civil law, have you seen that growing, or is that, what other practice areas have you seen moving? I don't know if you're aware of like family law or personal injury or criminal defense, like which practice areas are you watching to see how they're changing?
So that we notice patterns amongst all, people have families and people are getting divorced, people have children. So family law is pretty steady, and we notice patterns throughout the year with the ebb and flow of family law work. And to be quite honest with you, it has a lot to do with the holidays and school schedules, to be quite frank. So we see a correlation there, but people have families, people have children, people have spouses. So the family law market stays pretty consistent. People get into accidents. The PI market stays pretty consistent. And then people get into business disputes. So other types of contract and real estate and those types of things stay pretty consistent.
Okay. So with the areas where you're providing paralegal services, do you have is it a full-time paralegal that will just stay with a firm for months or years, or do you do hourly or project-based, or what's your, what have you found work?
So the answer to the question is that we will stay with our attorneys as long as they need our help. We are a premium service, which I like to compare our quality of work as associate level work at paralegal rate. That means that we encourage our clients, while we offer a full gamut of support and we'll do whatever our clients require request of us, we often encourage them to use our level of support in the most optimal way for the firm. And what does that mean? We do bill hourly. Okay. So we encourage our clients wherever possible to recycle those costs within the firm. So we focus on billable hours as much as we can. And if we can recycle that into a billable time entry where the firm can bill the client for that work, they can not only pay for our services, but they can actually make a profit on time that they never spend working on the case.
Okay. I mean, are some of these firms actually like losing money because they're not billing properly, or like what's overwhelming them where their profit margins may not be good on cases, and because of your intervention, then they are?
Well, that goes back to the firm consulting. When we take a deep dive at how firms are assessing their resource, how are firms using resources, not only like paralegal activity, but the legal assistants that they pay to sit at the front desk and answer phones, and the associates that they pay to complete assignments, and all the other things that they're spending money on, the overhead. How are they using those resources, and how much of those resources are being used to generate profit for the firm? So not only do we offer a pricing structure that gives them the opportunity to turn a profit on our service, we take a little tour around the back end to understand the firm processes that would allow them to do that. And we sort of get the partners or the shareholders to start thinking in terms of turning profits wherever possible, reducing overhead as much as possible, and making sure that the resources that they're using at the firm are providing a benefit. Our resources, or our service as a resource, can return a tangible green light benefit to the firm. And that's not to say that there are other parts of the firm that don't necessarily turn around a financial profit to the firm. We're also keeping that in mind when we do our firm analysis. But we like to see that as much as possible, because the truth is we're all here to do really one thing. And if we can contribute to that, we certainly make that a focus as we work with our attorney.
The attorneys that you work with, do they want the paralegals to sit in an office with them? Or, again, you said it's virtual. Are they comfortable with the paralegals not being local to them, or, X number of miles away or a few states away or wherever they may be?
So that's a great question. First of all of our paralegals are domestic, meaning that they're physically located somewhere in the United States, and 9 times out of 10, they're physically located in the same jurisdiction as the attorneys that they would be handling assignments for. The second thing is that we're not, that's not a foreign concept to us. And we work extremely hard to develop a trust and rapport with our attorneys so that they feel as confident with our attention to their firm as they would having someone sit in their office. Our firm attorney, or the attorneys that work with us, never have any concerns about being responded to in a timely manner, feeling that their work is being attended to properly and efficiently. We work just as hard and secure the trust with the attorney as a paralegal sitting in their office. However, we understand that there may be some things that just require someone sitting in the office, and there's not really a way to circumvent that. And for the attorneys that have that need and do require that structure within their firm, we usually suggest that they have a legal assistant who is sort of the liaison that can work between a full service paralegal service like ours and the office, that can handle those little interim level assignments that the attorney requires. So we're never here to make it all or nothing for anyone. We want to make sure that all the needs of the firm are met and that the attorney has confidence in the whole structure of the firm, even if it means we have to work with people outside of paralegal activity to make that happen.
And do the attorneys usually need like an entire full-time person, or sometimes, part-time people or project-based stuff? Like what do you tend to do with the attorneys at the end? Is it always full-time or not?
Usually it isn't. I can only think of one attorney of the many attorneys that are with us right now who have a need for a legal assistant that does, just a few hours of work on site with the attorney. And that's probably because that particular attorney actually owns the office space that he works out of. I would say the rest of the attorneys that we work with have become so comfortable and satisfied with paralegal activity services that they've gone fully virtual, and we handle everything from A to Z for their firm.
So you have some attorneys where they don't even have an office. They work from home, let's say, and all the people that support them are also working remotely too?
Correct. So those attorneys have adopted virtual offices, which have become very, very popular in the last couple of years, where they are renting like a commingled space amongst other professionals. And they really just use that as a formal office style setting if and when clients require in-person meeting. But that's really the extent of their in-office work. Most of the rest of their work is conducted remotely from wherever they so desire.
Yeah, no, that's great. It's excellent.
It also really helps. It really has helped transform their overheads and the way that their firm is spending money, which again, all of this kind of goes back to the back end to the firm management. We propose a virtual model to attorneys who may not have considered it or may not really know how to get that launch. They may want to go virtual. They may want to ditch in-person office space, but really be trepidatious about how to do that. And part of our consulting includes virtual models that can help them make that shift.
What makes a good client for you, and which one makes the bad one? Like, what kind of attorneys? How do they run their office and all that? Where it's a great interaction with your paralegals, and which attorneys are like, I guess to be frank, they're not running their office very well, and so it makes it hard for you to work with them.
That's a really great question. We work really hard with all of the attorneys that we have, whether it's a smooth working relationship or not, and we don't give up. We end up working with attorneys who have the same dedication to excellence when it comes to treating their clients with respect and professionalism and providing them with top quality work product. But if our attorneys are not there yet, we focus heavily on getting them there. So the answer to the question is that we don't have a preference, and our relationships with our attorneys from A to Z are great across the board. And that's not a representation of their practice styles. What that means is that we're on board to get our clients where they want to go, whether they're, steps away or miles away. It doesn't matter. And as long as our clients work with us step by step to try to get them where they want to go, we'll stay on board with them as long as they want.
What do the when you assign a paralegal to somebody, do the attorneys tell you like, I don't know how to train this person, I don't know how to onboard them, like I don't want them sitting there and I'm like, okay, let's work on this first and let's work on that next. And like, how do the attorneys know how to even train this person and onboard them properly?
Our service is plug and play. There is no training. So I want to make it very clear that while Paralegal Activity is a conglomerate of paralegals of different, of various fields, there is usually only one client liaison. And what that means is that the attorneys are only ever speaking to one person ever at Paralegal Activity, whether that work is outsourced or not. And the function is to, number one, develop that trust and that rapport with that attorney, which happens when you have that one-on-one consistent contact, but also it's a quality assurance measure. So whether that liaison does the work themselves or whether it's outsourced to another paralegal for efficiency and for accuracy, when that work product returns to the client liaison, there's a quality assurance check which is done to make sure that not only is the work at par, but there is a uniform standard. And our clients, our attorneys, can never tell whether or not this was drafted by one of our paralegals or the other. This allows a uniform standard of quality work, which goes back to our clients at all times.
But how do you, when you do the onboarding, how do you handhold the attorney if they're disorganized? What if they're like, oh, I need documents drafted, but I also need the clients responded to, and I need some help with intakes, and I need, and there's like 6 different things, and they don't know where to start. Do any of the attorneys expect that your paralegal would just day one take over for them and, organize them and get them going? Like, how do you start this relationship with the attorney so it goes well?
I think the most important part of coming on board is discussing and leveling expectations from day one. And yes, there are situations where we come into certain firms where the attorneys are in panic and crisis mode and there's chaos all over the place, and that's okay. But we have to start with expectations. We are chaos coordinators, absolutely, but we are not magicians. So we have to come on board mitigating our clients' expectations of what we can do. But after that, it is a lot of intense and frequent interaction with our attorney to prioritize what needs to be done. I may be hearing them say that everything that's going on is an absolute fire, but in reality, if I take a closer look at the cases, I probably can understand what needs to be done in order of priority from day to day based on the procedural history of the case.
Okay, but in the beginning, I guess there's like, getting them to start working with the paralegal smoothly. It takes some effort.
Yes. And we also have we have our software that helps us keep track of assignments that we share with our attorney clients so that they can not only understand what work they've sent to us, but where we are with that. And it's a shared platform. So if they have the urge at midnight to understand what's going on with the Smith file, they can go to that platform and see any updates that we've put on that shared file so that they can sleep a little easier knowing that it's being taken care of, or at least that it's been delegated and it's in process.
Okay, gotcha. So what is the typical time where the attorney will start working with one of your people and everything's starting to run smooth? There's like good back and forth interaction, and how long does that take till they're like a nice steady state?
Richard, I would be remiss to say that we've got happy endings with all of our attorneys. That accomplishment is the goal, but this is a game of chess, and we can only meet our attorneys where they're meeting us on the board, right? So we can go as far as possible using our expertise to try to get them to that goal, but they really have to meet us somewhere. And some attorneys are a consistent work in progress, and some of them make it to certain goals and markers. But like we talked about before, just because an attorney doesn't get where they want to go in the desired time frame doesn't mean that we throw our hands up and give it up. We'll stay on board as long as it takes to get there. But every single firm, every single attorney, every single group is different, and there's no average. And to be quite honest, every firm that we work with is a work in progress. So we might hit a milestone and we may hit the markers that we discuss at the beginning of our interaction and get to those milestones within the firm. And then we'll reassess and say, hey, now that we're here, let's talk about where we want to go now. So the goalpost can move and the progress towards the goalpost can ebb and flow.
Okay, gotcha. So where can you, because your people are virtual, like, can you go all over the U.S. or like where do you serve attorneys?
Yes, we can. So since we're located in Florida, and this is where the lion's share of our clients are, we do quite a bit of work here, but we've done work across the country, all across the country, and we are the eyes and ears of people who are out of the state as well. And what I mean by that is that we'll have clients who are in New York or other parts of the country, and they'll need help with things that are going on here in Florida for whatever reason, and we can facilitate them with that. But part of our work includes servicing clients across the country, and that's where we would zone in on the other resources, other paralegals in those jurisdictions so that we're not recreating the wheel. We're not learning things from scratch. We're using talent in those parts of the country to make sure that our clients get, again, the best quality of work, the most efficient way.
Yeah, that's one thing I was going to ask you is I've heard local courts have all kinds of sometimes weird arcane rules to submit documents like in person or electronically, whatever. So in Florida, you guys probably know the back of your hand. But what if someone from like Wyoming says, hey, I need help and the local courts here like require you to ride up on a horse or something and hand it in manually? Like how do you know the local rules to be able to work with the attorneys who are supposed to know, but the local courts and stuff?
Well, we depend on our expertise, the expertise of the paralegals that we source across the country to know those rules just as well as we do here in Florida. And there's ways of knowing. The other thing that's very, very important is that we vet the paralegals that come on board to provide us with ancillary services very carefully. And as a seasoned paralegal myself, it doesn't take me very long to figure out whether or not someone really knows what they're doing. And to be fair, we let our paralegals that come on board know that from the start. There's really not a lot of room for training here. There's not a lot of room for hand-holding and micromanagement. We don't do that. We rely on seasoned experts who are good at what they do and understand business, meaning getting things done efficiently and properly for our clients. However, since we are talking about talent and the human resources of our company, the other part that we recently, within the past couple of years, we've opened a mentoring program here at our company for paralegals who are just getting started, for paralegals who may not understand this world, and that being like the legal field, attorneys and other paralegals, what we see here, and really how to make your way in field.
Oh, okay. So what, you have a mentorship program? I mean, people have to work for you, or is it like a school where someone can be trained on how to be a paralegal in general?
No, Richard, we don't do any of that. So the majority of the people who come to us looking for mentorship are people who have taken some sort of paralegal course and but just have not been able to make their way into the field. So one of the services that we offer is resume review and writing. You know, we want to take a good look at your resume. We hire all the time. We help attorneys hire on the time, and we know what successful resumes look like. So we often help our junior paralegals that come to us looking for mentorship with their resume development. And we also give them some insight as to practicality in the legal setting. What is it really like to live and work day to day in the legal field? What can you really expect from attorneys? What can you really expect from other paralegals? And I guarantee you it's not what you sat in class and learned.
Yeah, I mean, you probably mentioned a lot of it, but is there any one thing that shocks people when they first, work in the paralegal capacity?
I think so. Attorneys and the legal profession do garner a lot of respect from society at large for good reason. But this is a field that does require thick skin, very thick skin, and you have to be witty and observant. You must know your audience. And if you appear benign, inexperienced, green, or otherwise weak, you'll be eaten alive very quickly.
Yeah, that's true. Attorneys are, they're looking for weeks. Yep. That's what they have to do is tap. Yep.
That's true. And sometimes it's hard for them to bifurcate that type of mentality with opposing counsel and with staff. So we train up and coming paralegals on the real world logistics of working in this field, how to develop that thick skin, how to know what you're looking for, how to interpret what you're seeing, right? And how to do all of that, but also be good at the paralegaling part, the drafting, the client relations, the scheduling, the time management, all of that other stuff, the stuff that you learned in school. But there's a whole culture that exists in the legal field that up and coming paralegals should really be aware of before they get involved.
Okay, very interesting. So, all right, how do people get in touch with, Paralegal Activity? What's the website and phone number and all that?
You can check us out online at www.paralegalactivity.com. There is a contact page there, but of course you can reach out via phone 561-396-0455 or email paralegalactivityllc@gmail.com.
Excellent. Well, Selena, thanks so much for coming and giving us the real scoop on what goes on. And I wish you much success. And thanks for coming. I appreciate it.
I appreciate your time too, Richard.
If you like this podcast, please click the link in the description to subscribe and review us on iTunes.
Thank you for listening to the Good Question Podcast. Please email support@thegoodquestionpodcast.com if you have any referrals to great guests for us to interview. Visit thegoodquestionpodcast.com to hear more interviews. And please help us spread the word by rating and reviewing us on Apple Podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen to this podcast.